Hey, it's Kai.
And this is Rod of Kai's Baking Studio.
And today we're making a pumpkin pie.
A keto pumpkin pie, grasshopper. It's a low-carb variety of your favorite holiday treat. This one actually removes sugar and some other items that actually makes it a little bit higher in carbs. Once again, this is another option for you to not derail your keto diet, something that you can enjoy, something that doesn't make you feel like you've been cheated on the holiday, because it is a holiday, you're supposed to overindulge a little bit. If you are gonna overindulge, indulge in something that's low carb.
Now we're about to make the pie crust.
All right, I'm gonna take the pie crust, pour it right inside of here. The pie crust recipe is in the description below. Just a little bit of almond flour, a little bit of sweetener, a little bit of coconut flour, xanthan gum, salt. Pretty simple. I'm gonna go ahead and get this started. You can do this inside of a stand mixer, but the reason why we do this inside of a, go ahead. The reason why we do it inside of a food processor is when you add the butter, the recipe actually can allow you to put a melted butter inside of there, but for some reason I find that the cold butter actually works a little bit better. So go ahead and start adding the butter in. Pull this one out.
Okay, thank you.
I'll put them in like that. Now we'll let this mix. It'll be crumbly, it will not look perfect, and we will stop this just right before it starts to form a ball. Increase the speed just a little bit. And you'll start to see that it's starting to incorporate. Now we just need an egg. All right, now we're gonna add an egg. And that egg will actually start to bind everything together. Let's just take a look in there and make sure that I don't see any butter clumps. And I do see a couple butter clumps, so let's go ahead and mix it up a little bit more. If you have the butter clumps, it will work itself out, but try not to leave too many big clumps of butter because you will have distortion in your dough, and you'll actually have a space that is like extra buttery, and it may pop open.
Yes.
So the more uniform it is, the better. So we'll take this out, we'll crack an egg, and pop this inside of here. And it'll start to come together like a ball. Now
like
right before it starts turning into a ball, we'll stop it. You don't want to overmix the dough. Overmixed dough never works out right. All right, so that's kind of how you want the dough to look.
Yeah, I'll start.
It does look quite crumbly. Not exactly the way that you want it to look if you were making a traditional pie crust. But this crust is a keto crust, and it does like to misbehave. So if you are having a hard time with this, so do we.
And once you're finished, you'll kind of look more of a dough, not too.
It'll look more like a dough when it's done, but right now, as you can see, it's crumbly. And this is how it should look. Don't expect it to look as smooth as a traditional pie crust. If it looks that way, you've probably mixed it too much, and you actually aren't going to get the result that you're looking for. Can you hand me those parchment papers over there?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, thank you.
Here you go.
Spread those out. I use parchment paper. You could use saran wrap, but I would recommend against it. Saran wrap is not as forgiving as the parchment paper is. It allows you to work with the dough without losing and getting everything stuck onto there. You have a few wet pieces, you just want to mix that in with the drier pieces. We're going to kind of knead this into a ball. Take that. Thank you. So we'll knead this, you'll grab the pieces. The more the pieces that you have together, the better. You'll mix it in. And the dough actually, correct, you're gonna roll it. Now this dough here is not as forgiving as I would like it to be. I've rolled regular pie crust, and it's a heck of a lot easier than this crust. We're gonna roll this out. It does not have to look perfect. And don't feel bad if you have to roll it out and start over again. The reason why we use the cold butter is that it allows the pie crust to actually be a little bit easier to work with. If you use a melted butter, you can use a melted butter. but the melted butter is not as forgiving. If you make a mistake, you'll have to place this inside of a freezer for probably 5 to 10 minutes to allow a little bit of recovery time, because once this gets too soft, it is absolutely unworkable. You can't do anything with it. And don't be afraid if this does not look perfect, because it's all right. Sit that over there, not close to the stove, to the fire. And I also need the pie pan. You can hand me the pie pan. Thank you so much.
Pie
All right.
pan.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it like this and just do a little trick of flipping it over. Just gonna flip it over here, and it is gonna make a mess. Don't be afraid of the mess. And even when it breaks,
That's okay.
it breaks, it's okay. This dough is actually a little bit more forgiving than you think it is. So what you wanna do is start building up the edges of the crust, and you wanna fill in any of the gaps. You can use your fingers to fix that in. It's a lot like regular dough, but it's just not as thick and it's not as uniform. The sugar and the gluten and the regular flour really helps to bind the pie crust together. This pie crust does not bind together like that. You have to use things like the xanthan gum. You have to use a bit of elbow grease to put everything together. You have to really be focused and trying to make it look good. Because remember, if you don't make it look good while you're making it, it's gonna look exactly the way you left it. So if it doesn't look good, it's not gonna look good on your table. But if it tastes good, that's all that matters. But it does help to make it look good.
Extra dough.
We'll have a little bit of extra dough. We're gonna put some in the inside. The dough on the inside is not built up yet. If you wanna be able to pull it out to actually get a nice piece of pie, the dough that Kai is working on the inside, right there, she's actually going to take it and press it into the inside of the dough, the middle of the pan. That's where it seems to be the weakest. Keto dough is very unforgiving if you don't get it just right. It doesn't have to look perfect on the bottom here because, of course, you're gonna put some nice pumpkin filling in there, but it does need to be smooth, uniform. You have to make sure that there's no gaps, no holes, no spaces. And we also need to get a fork so we can put some holes inside the dough. If you don't put some holes in the dough, you're gonna have a lumpy, jacked up pie. So we're just about done with that. We're gonna fix this edge here because it doesn't look too good just yet. And just build it up to where you have a little bit of room on the edges. If you can still see the aluminum, you don't have enough dough in that spot. And just build it up along the edges. I know this is taking a little bit of time. It takes a lot more time. Usually you can drape the dough across. You can actually make the cut, but this is keto. It's a little bit harder.
Just a little bit.
But it's well worth the effort. You just have to do that. So, not like that, grasshopper.
This way?
Turn it around this way. And you're gonna actually make little divots like that. Can you do that?
Yes, I can.
All right, all around the pie. You can just simply rotate it. Use your fork to make the little, pretty little markings. If you didn't know that's how that happened, that's how it happens. There is a little tool that you can use for pie crust to make it look really pretty, and they have all these little fancy tools.
But a fork works too.
But a fork works. You don't have to go buy all those things. If that's not what you do, if you're not a professional baker, save the money, spend more money on things to eat, things that you like, maybe on Black Friday. All right, let's come back over here to this spot so you can get that. I'm gonna finish this up for you. And come across at the edges. You'll see that this is a little light right here. So we'll add just a little bit more to build it up, because if you don't build it up there on the edges, the crust, you will not get that nice little piece of crust. And if you do have it come off like you just did there, that's fine. It's no worries. All you have to do is place the dough back on there again, reform it, and just gently come across and the little marks there. And then you have to actually come off. If you have a pie roller, you can actually roll it around, but you just want to come across and put a few holes inside the pie, so it has a little bit of room to escape. The air has room to escape while the pie is actually cooking. If you do not put this on here, it will not turn out the way that you want it to be. You have it nice and poofy all over the place. It's still going to be edible, but you may not be able to get that much pie filling in the inside. And just randomly go across.
Doesn't matter where.
Just make sure that you've covered most of the pie. That's what keeps it from popping open. And if you ever buy pie from the store, crust, that's why you see holes in the crust, so it does not get damaged. So we're gonna take this and place it inside the oven. You only need to bake this for about 10 minutes until it's golden brown. It might be just a little bit more. Then after it's done, we'll wait about 20 minutes to let it cool down and let it to reform. So when you put the pie filling, the pumpkin pie filling, it doesn't get soggy. It gives it a chance to retain its form and everything, and you can pour that inside of there, and we'll go from there. We'll see you just in a few minutes.
Now it's time to make the pumpkin pie filling.
This is the part that you want to eat. The crust is the unsung hero, but the pie filling is what you actually are coming here for. So today, we're gonna start off with some pumpkin puree. You can do about 1 can. It's approximately about 15 ounces of pumpkin. You do not want to use the pumpkin pie filling. If you use the pumpkin pie filling, you have violated all the tenets of keto. There's plenty of sugar inside of there. There's a little bit of sugar inside of this. It's naturally occurring sugar inside of the pumpkin, but if you add the pumpkin pie, they add a tremendous amount of sugar. So go ahead and pour in the heavy whipping cream. Pour it like so, this way.
You also have vanilla.
Vanilla extract, go ahead and put that in there.
Okay. Then we also have pumpkin spice mix with salt, a little bit of salt.
All right, thank you.
And
what else do you have?
We have 2 eggs. You can go ahead and crack those.
All right. Look at that, I almost lost the egg. So we're gonna put that powdered erythritol sweetener. It's an erythritol monk fruit blend. I'm using the powdered because the granular sometimes
can crystallize, make it crystallize kind of. And you do not want that.
You don't want that. And this actually makes a smoother mix. So go ahead and put that down and lock it on the side. And we'll do a little small start to get it stirring. Now it's coming together nice and smooth. I don't see any lumps inside of there, but we'll let it mix for about another 30 seconds or so. Just to let everything incorporate. This is actually a pretty simple pie, but the pumpkin pie filling is nice and easy. All right, as Kai does the cleanup. Isn't that nice? A 10-year-old actually cleaning up. All right, so we're gonna come here, we're gonna pour pie crust inside of there, nice and even. If you have a little bit too much inside of there and it looks like you're gonna go over, please don't go over, because then your pie is gonna be all over the bottom of your oven.
And nobody wants to clean their oven on Thanksgiving.
Well, you're probably gonna end up cleaning your oven on Thanksgiving, but by the time you put your pie in there, you might have to clean it again. So it's always better just to fill it just to the point that it needs to be. This recipe is actually gauged out just about right, so you don't have any extra. So we'll take this here and we will let it sit and settle. We're gonna place that inside the oven for about 45 to 50 minutes. It could be as high as an hour depending on your oven. And you just wanna let this start to cook. It'll start browning along the edges. You see that it's already starting to brown. We can actually tint that with a little bit of aluminum foil to prevent this from over browning, because if you let this go inside of there, this is probably gonna get excessively dark. So we're gonna put a little tint of foil around the sides to keep it from overcooking. We'll let this cook and you'll start to see it'll start to bubble up around here and it'll start to form here, and it'll be just a little wiggly in the middle. If it's a little wiggly in the middle at about 45 to 50 minutes, that means that it is done. Do not let it cook too much further. You don't want to let it cook completely in the oven, because when you take it out, the heat from the pie will continue to cook. When you take it out and it's a little wiggly in the middle, that means that it's just about right. And then it will continue to cook. There's heat inside of here. It'll cook for another 10 minutes or so, and it'll come out nice. You might see a little white glaze on top because that's the erythritol kind of coming up. It's unfortunate that it does that, but it does not stay. It just comes up and it looks white at the end. So that's not something that's uncommon. And don't feel like you've messed up or it didn't turn out the way that you wanted it to. That color will subside and go back down into the pie. So we're gonna place this inside the oven and we'll be right back. All right, our keto pumpkin pie is now complete. It's out the oven, it's nice and brown. The edges are complete and everything else. And now you have something that's going to keep you keto even during the holidays. So when you make your pie, you can garnish it with a whipped cream if you like, or there may be another way you might like it. You might like to add some low-carb, keto-friendly ice cream to go along with it. It's no reason for you to sacrifice that much during the holidays. You can actually still stay low-carb during the holidays. So this is our keto pumpkin pie. And we thank you so much for watching this video today. And just like, subscribe.
And hit that notification bell so you're always alerted when we post a new video.
Thank you so much for stopping. Check us out at kaisbakingstudio.com or kbsfoods.com.